We're still fighting for freedom of speech. Here to discuss that and more from across the pond is the founder of London Real and the host of the London Real podcast, Brian Rose. Brian, thanks so much for being with us tonight. I just want to tell our viewers a little bit about you. You were raised in California. You were on Wall Street. You were a banker, very successful, but at some point you decided that when you were working in London, you kind of gave it all up and decided that you wanted to create a podcast, and you started with rather simple tools, and on April 6th of this year you had the largest viewed broadcast on YouTube, second only to a broadcast of President Trump. What happened after that broadcast, Brian?
Well, Judge, since founding London Real almost 10 years ago, I've gone from podcasting in my kitchen to becoming one of the most popular independent media platforms in the world. But for the past 3 months, I've been locked in a battle for our most basic fundamental human right, freedom of speech, or in this case, what I call digital freedom of speech. And like you said, on April 6th, we simply broadcast a conversation between two people, which was the second largest YouTube live stream in the world that day, second only to President Trump. And instead, the entire 2.5-hour conversation was banned and deleted from YouTube 30 minutes later. Now, look, I live in London, but I grew up in America, so freedom of speech is in my DNA. Now, Judge, I might not agree with everything you have to say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. So we decided to fight back and keep broadcasting these quote-unquote banned conversations, and we created the Digital Freedom Platform, a censorship-free, independent broadcasting system that is of the people, by the people, for the people. We raised over $1 million from 31,000 digital patriots from around the world during the greatest recession in the last 100 years, and then we broadcast the largest live stream of a conversation in human history to over 1.3 million unique viewers, and we showed these Silicon Valley technology censors that we will not be silenced, we will not be censored, and we will not be stopped.
Okay, Brian, so what were you discussing in that YouTube platform that was taken down? What was the discussion about?
Well, that's a great question, because I had a one-on-one private conversation 24 hours later with my reps at YouTube, and they said we violated quote-unquote community standards, and I couldn't get them to go much further than that, and that's the problem. It's subjective to what they choose. Now, we spoke about COVID-19 and some of the lockdown issues, but the problem is that they don't have to give you any details. They call themselves a private company, and they go ahead and censor. And they're censoring all sorts of things these days, including talk about what's going on with the CDC, the WHO, and potential vaccines. And I'm on the front lines feeling this for the first time in 9 years. Now I'm being censored, and it really goes against the Constitution. And there's something really wrong when we can't have a free discussion in a debate.
Who are they? Who are you talking about?
You know, it's a great question. Right now, there are literally a handful of people at these trillion-dollar Silicon Valley companies that are controlling what we have to say. And we've seen this recently, you know, with President Trump fighting for his own digital freedom of speech on Twitter. And are you telling me that Jack Dorsey should have more power than the President of the United States? I think not. You know, now we have these unelected, unaccountable, unknown, quote-unquote, fact-checkers dictating what we all can say online. You know, but the real question is why, and why now? I don't think it's a coincidence that this is happening in an election year, and I think we should really wonder what's happening here. I just say, Judge, follow the money, follow the money. But one thing I know is that YouTube's policy of censorship is costing lives.
Okay, so in 30 seconds, you have a proposal to protect freedom of speech on the digital platform, which is kind of interesting because during these shutdowns, a lot of us are not talking to each other in public, but we're talking online. So they pretty much are monitoring everything we're saying and doing. Isn't that interesting?
It is. It's very convenient. And now that we're locked down, we have to use these technology platforms that then again say they're private companies and they don't have to follow freedom of speech. But we've looked into it. And when a private company acts as a public utility, there's precedent here in London with the London Stock Exchange, then those companies have to follow the law of the land. And so we are taking action legally in the UK and the US. The beauty is if we can prove this in the UK, they have to change their policy globally. But you're right, Judge. They are actually forcing us to use use these platforms so we can't have normal conversations with each other, and then they're censoring what we have to say. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but this all points in one direction, and they're controlling our conversations, they're controlling our thoughts, and there's just other agendas here that we're just not in control of.
All right, Brian Rose, it's great to have you on. We're going to bring you back to justice. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll be right back.
Pleasure, thank you.